Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. It's Steven. So I'm going to do another question and answer video for you guys. Before I get into that, I do want to give you an email address that I would like you to write down, possibly, and use if you'd like to get in touch with me or reach out with a question or comment or anything. So please write down this email address. It's my full name, so it's the same name as my channel. So it's Steven, S-T-E-V-E-N Pereira, P-E-R-E-I-R-A, @gmail.com. It's an ancient email address I've had forever. Back in the good old days, you actually had to be invited to join Gmail. You couldn't just create an email. You had to be invited. Crazy. It was a long time ago. But use that email address. So if you have any questions, comments, whatever, drop me an email there. It would be a lot easier for me than actually going through the Facebook Messenger app on my phone or on my computer. So use that email. If you could, I'd appreciate it. All right, so questions and answers. I have one question and answer video so far. This will be a second. I'm just going to choose some questions at random. You guys have asked a lot more questions, and I have to write them down before I answer them. So let's get started with a couple. The first question is, what is a do not fly list? Do not fly list. I thought it was something to do with mechanical issues on the plane, and no, it's not. As you work as a flight attendant, you're going to work with people you love that will be your new best friends. And then you're going to work with people that you absolutely can't stand, where your teeth start to ache when they walk on the plane. Well, the first caution I would have is don't judge a book by its cover too quickly. Read the book, or at least the first few pages. Because just because you don't like someone, don't click with someone right away, doesn't mean you won't. There's a few people that I have worked with so far that I at first really did not like. We did not hit it off well. But after getting to know them during a flight, during a trip, I really came to adore them. And that's for the most part. I really have loved almost everyone I've flown with. There's one woman I refuse to fly with. Most people in my base, it's pretty much understood that she is a challenge, more than a challenge. I think she's kind of dangerous. So many people refuse to fly with her. I was warned when I when I started that if you saw her on the list, you can almost bet the other person flying with you is a reserve because other people have dropped the trip. They didn't want to work with her. So this person is, after I've worked with her a few times, she is so far the only person on my do not fly list. I think that's wonderful because if there's only one person, I'm doing good, right? She has since moved to our Dallas base. I'm sorry, Dallas. You'll know who I'm talking about soon. She is, oh God. But there's one other person who I've actually flown with this month. She is passive aggressive, has barely spoken a word to me, and we just do not get along. She gets along famously with other people, but something about me she just apparently doesn't like, and I let her know that her behavior was not acceptable to me at the beginning of this trip, and I'll speak to her civilly when I have to at work, but I'm done. I'm right about there with her, so finished. I think she's dropped the last trip of this month that we share together, this line. That's fine with me. So she might be on my do not fly list. She's not that bad that I can't work with her, but there's certainly no talking with her. And she's so lacking in charisma that I'm really not going to miss it. Oh gosh, I sound petty. I'm sorry. So there's two people, so like 1.5 people that are on my list. So in my airline, we don't have like a do not fly list that's official. That's part of the software that we use. So we just have to look at a line that when we're awarded a line or we're awarded a schedule, I can look and see who shares my line. And if it's one of these people that you just cannot work with, I think at my seniority, the only option I have is, number one, work with them, suck it up, or drop the trips that we share. They may have dropped a trip, so I would be able to work that trip easily. Or if they didn't drop a trip and I just can't work with them, I would drop that trip and try to pick up a trip out of either open time or our trade board. Our open time is based on seniority, so it would be sort of difficult for me to pick up a trip at will. I'd probably have more luck in our trade board, but we'll see. So for my seniority level, a do not fly list would really have to be significant for me to have to drop all of my trips for that month and try to pick up other trips. So it would be hard, but that's what I'd have to do if I refused to work with a person. Again, I'd caution you not to judge someone too quickly. You really want to see whether or not they're truly the person that you don't like. Because someone might surprise you. I've really made some great friends that immediately I wasn't too sure of, Some airlines will allow you, when you're submitting your bid for a line, to include a series of names that you just don't want to work with again. And so if you're awarded a line, those people wouldn't be on your line with you. And that's what I believe to be the case. I've never done it myself because I don't have that luxury with my airline. But a do not fly list is a list of people that you refuse to work with because they're too difficult or you don't get along or whatever. So I'm lucky I only have one. And I might add this other person because I just don't know if I have it in me to do another month working with her. But so that's one answer. I hope it's a good enough answer. If I didn't answer that well enough, certainly let me know. How do you bid for schedules? Let me cross that off. How do you bid for a schedule, bid for a line? So I think the dates are universal with most airlines, but for me, I'll speak with my experience. We receive an email with a bid package, which has a lot of information in it. I can find my place in seniority, company seniority. I can find my spot on my base seniority. It has all the contact information for all the people we might need. It has a list of people who are due to have their passport renewed, licenses renewed, whatever. And it also has every schedule, every line for the month that's available. And you can look through that list of schedules and determine which trips or which lines you'd prefer. And a line, if you don't know, a line would equal a schedule for the month. That's what a line is. So you'd be able to look at all of the lines that are available through this email and then determine which schedules or which lines that you would prefer, right? Or the ones you'd like to avoid. So in my airline, we use a website called Flicka. And Flicka, we would log into Flicka, click on Submit Bid, and I can sort I can either select just the lines I want. Being that I'm junior, relatively junior, I'm probably not going to get just the lines I select because I'm so junior. So what I would do is use the software and I would sort the lines in order of my preferences. So my preferences typically are to have the first few days and the last few days of each month off, so that I have a guaranteed little break of time off as the months merge into each other. I also do that because I don't want to have any complications with my schedule. If you get a trip that lands on the first day or overlaps with another one, it's called SAP, and you have to pick up trips, and it's very complicated. So I'd rather avoid that. So I take the first few days and the last few days of each month off. I also have it done in order of time away from base because I really like the way that my per diem adds up, right? And I also, one of my other preferences that I will, we are allowed, we have to have we have to have 1 day off for every 6 days worked in a row at least. And I do, in my preferences, allow that 24-hour period can be one of our layovers. So I can have a 24-hour layover and have that be my required break between a 6-day work stretch. So I also add that in there. And so I put in all my little preferences and then submit my bid. And so I'll get, so the lines will be all ordered in that sort. And then I submit my bid, and crew scheduling will award me the line that best meets my preferences in order of seniority. Does that make any sense? So we get that bid package a few days before bidding begins. For us, bidding begins on the 12th of every month, and it ends on the 17th. I think it's the 17th. And then we get we receive our award bid, the bid award. So I'll find out what my line is for the month. So far, I've been pretty lucky. I get pretty close to what I want, and it's great. So that's how we bid for a schedule. You can, with our airline, you also bid for reserve notification periods. So with my airline, we have a 10-hour notification period where crew scheduling could potentially call us to work a trip. And so we have that broken into A, B, and C, different time periods. I always preferred B, which was from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I always bid for that line. One person taught me very early on when I was on reserve to always bid for lines first. Always bid for schedules first, and then bid for my reserve notification period. So that just in case I was just on the cusp of getting a line, that I would actually be, bidding for lines. It also got me in the habit of bidding for lines. The worst feeling in the world I hear about, because I haven't done it yet, the worst feeling in the world, apparently, is to be senior and then forget to bid until it's closed, and then you're stuck on reserve. And when you're super senior and you haven't been on reserve for a long time, to be stuck on reserve because you didn't bid would really bite. So I got in the habit very early on for bidding for lines, even though I wasn't going to see a line for a long time. When I did get my line this past March, my first line, some of my coworkers who did not bid because they didn't think they would be eligible to get a line missed out. They got reserve, right? So start bidding as soon as you can. All right, so let's cross that one off. Let's see, a little bit more personal. Favorite game or book? I have 2 favorite games or books. I play Skyrim. I'm not sure if you guys are gamers, but Skyrim came out like in 2012 or something. I went to the midnight launch of that. I was working at Saks Fifth Avenue. I got out of work at 6 o'clock that day, and I'm wearing my suit for work, and I got in line at the GameStop to buy this game when it launched at midnight. And I stood there all night long with 15-year-old kids. And there was this middle-aged man wearing a suit. But I've been playing Skyrim, which is Elder Scrolls V, since then, and I've played it practically every day I'm at home. I mean, not really. I've played it every character. I've played every type of character build. Yeah, I still play it. If you've played Skyrim before, you probably know what I'm talking about. I play The Sims too. I'm playing The Sims 4. I'll go 3 or 4 months without playing, but I'll pick it up and play. And I play Civilization 5. So those are the 3 video games I play. And I still play them pretty much all the time. Skyrim, if not daily, pretty often. Civilization 5, I probably play once a week, maybe twice a week. And The Sims, I'll not play for a few months, and then I'll play it for 10 hours straight. And then I'll forget to play it again for a while. So I do play a lot of 3 video games, but I play them a lot. And my favorite book of all time is The Stand by Stephen King. I think I've read it like 15, 16 times. It was the second novel I ever read. The first novel I ever read was Cujo. Yeah, I know. I was 10 or 11, I think, when I read that. Cujo. They were my mother's books, and I read whatever my mother had around the house. But The Stand by Stephen King has always been my favorite. I just love everything about that book. The storyline, the story arc, the characters. The worst made-for-TV movie ever. Molly Ringwald played Franny. It was just horrifying. But that's my favorite book and my favorite game. Let's cross that one off. What else? How rigorous are they when it comes to BMI and weight? That is, I'm assuming, during your interview process, is how serious are they when it comes to weight? In the U.S., and I'll speak for the U.S., you cannot be discriminated against because of your weight. So you can be quite curvy. You can be a little heavy. When I got interviewed and hired, I was a size 38 in pants, and those were snug. I'm probably down to a snug 34, a 35 right now, which is really fantastic. But we have some flight attendants who are definitely on the curvy side. I don't know what the BMI is, but they're curvy. You have to be able to fit in the jump seat, and that's just without an extension. If you can't fit in the jump seat, you can't fly. You can't do the work. And, I see this on Facebook all the time. As long as you can fit in the jump seat, you're fine. No, I'm sorry. That's very nice to hear, and it's very comforting to hear, but that's not the whole answer. When you're in a jump seat, it's not just the seatbelt that you're close to. You're sitting next to your coworker, and I'll tell you, if you're fuller figured and you're filling out that jump seat, you're kind of sitting on the lap of the person who's sitting next to you as well. And if there are two people who are like me, a bigger person, sitting next to each other on the jump seat, it is very intimate. You really have to like that person because you're going to get to know them really well. So what I would do is I would get 2 dining room chairs or 2 chairs and sit them directly next to each other and sit down in one chair and have someone else sit next to you. If you aren't comfortable and you're like, getting intimate, I would think about getting a little bit more fit, watching your diet before going on your interview. I hope that doesn't sound horrible. So I see all the time on Facebook, can curvy girls get a job as a flight attendant? Yes. But as long as you fit in the jump seat, and as long as you can be comfortable sitting next to the person you're going to sit next to during your work hours, yeah, that's actually what I would say about BMI and your weight as a flight attendant. Oh, one more thing. All right, so if you fly Southwest, you know that their aisles are very narrow. If you fly on some of our Airbus aircraft, some of the aisles are very narrow. When you're flying, passengers just don't sit upright in their seats. They're often like this. Their feet are in the aisle, their shoulders, their knees, legs. People are all over the place in the aircraft. And during a red eye, you learn how to become a ninja. So you learn how to twist and turn and curve and step over things. And but if you're really super, super, super curvy, and again, I don't want to be creepy or not very nice, but if you're uncomfortable in terms of size getting through an aircraft on a red eye when you're going to be hitting everyone as you come through the cabin. So I'm going to let that topic go because I think I'm spending too much time on it. Let's see. Let's cross that one off here. And I think I might answer one other question. What led me to become a flight attendant? Let me cross this off now. What led me to become a flight attendant? I was, if you've watched another story time video, I was actually living in my car in Florida, in the Tampa area, and having a really hard time finding a job that paid me well enough to be able to eat, pay my car insurance and gas, and an apartment, even a roommate, multiple roommates. So I was actually living in my car. My friend Steven, one of my best friends, Steven, lives in Atlanta. He has a giant house in Buckhead, beautiful house. And he invited me to move up to Atlanta because there had to be better job opportunities. And so I went up there for Christmas to spend Christmas with them. He and his housemate and some friends I have in Atlanta. And while I was up there and we were driving to dinner, I was in the back seat of the van, of the car, going to dinner. And I was on Indeed, and I was just applying to every job I could possibly find in Indeed that I thought would be a good fit. And one of those was Delta Airlines. I applied to fly with Delta. It's Atlanta. What else is in Atlanta except for Delta, right? So, and Coca-Cola. So I applied for Delta, and my friend said, Stephen, if you really want to be a flight attendant, you should apply for other airlines. Now, I really didn't want to be a flight attendant. I'll admit that. I didn't want to be a flight attendant. It wasn't my first thought, I should say. I wanted to be a flight attendant back in the 90s, but it's a long story. So I applied for Delta, and he said, well, you should apply for other airlines too. So I applied to American, I applied to JetBlue, I applied to my airline, and I applied to, what else did I apply to? I think that's it. No, yeah, that's it. And Delta, I got a video interview with Delta, and I did not prepare. I hadn't watched any YouTube videos. I didn't prepare, and I bombed. I could make a video on how to bomb a video interview. And then I got a thanks but no thanks from, is it JetBlue I applied to? I think JetBlue. I hadn't heard from American, and then my airline said, hey, we'd like to find out more about you. And so I prepared myself as well as I could for that interview in Fort Lauderdale. And in the preparing, in the YouTube videos I watched, in all the investigation I had done in the lifestyle online, the more and more interested I got in the job and the lifestyle. And watching all the flight attendants I do on YouTube, I really came to get excited, and I really wanted the job. More, like, just as much as I wanted to work back at, at a luxury hotel or a luxury department store. But then I went to the interview, and the first thing was a goldfish bowl question. The first cut was after the goldfish bowl question. And I remember standing up, doing my response to the goldfish bowl question, and then sitting down. And after everything was done, they went away for a bit. The folks, the recruiting people went away for a bit, and they came back and they listed off a name of people that in the end they were cutting. And I remember the moment where I begged my higher power for them not to call my name, because I knew it was the first cut. I begged for my higher power to please do not have me on that list, because I suddenly, after seeing the orientation for my company and seeing the people I'd potentially be working with, and in conjunction with what I learned online and on YouTube, I wanted this job. Little bits and pieces. There's little stories of me as a child with my little brother. My little brother and I would have these paper airplanes my grandmother tried to teach us how to make. And he and I used to play with these paper airplanes and go, zoom, zoom, where are we going next? Because we moved a lot as a kid. We were basically nomads. So I always have these little threads through my whole life about going somewhere and flying somewhere. But I never thought of it as a career. But when I was in that interview, that hiring event, I suddenly knew I wanted this job. I wasn't the person who fought for this job for years and years. I just realized in the interview that I really wanted this job. And so I really am grateful every day for the opportunity that my airline has given me, because it's the best job ever. All right, so I wonder if I have time for one more. Let me look at this list and see if I have an easy one to... All right, so I'm going to answer one more question, and then I'll let you guys go, because this is already getting long. How is it being based in Las Vegas, or what is it like to live in Las Vegas? Well, I love Las Vegas as a base. First, while we're the second largest base in my airline, there's probably 650 of us in our airline. It's still a very small airport. You know, it's not a huge base, but for us, it's an important base. So it's small, it's intimate. I think the feeling that you might get with a lot of regional airlines, you get at my base. Most people know each other by name, by face, or by experience. So it's an intimate base. We're super chill, super relaxed. We're on point. You know, we are in compliance, but there's very little stress and very little drama in my base. I happen to love it. Our airport is super easy to get around in, very easy. And Las Vegas itself is super affordable, super affordable. So if you're on reserve, you can actually afford to live in your own apartment or have one roommate. I pay $525. I just lied. They raised my rent. I pay $545 a month for my studio. It includes everything except electricity. Come on. I couldn't live in my own apartment in Chicago or Fort Lauderdale or, you know, any of our more expensive bases. So I love being based in Las Vegas. It's the perfect base for me. Eventually, when I can hold a line in my company at any base, one day down the road, I would like to move and transfer to our Fort Lauderdale base, mostly because so many of my friends and loved ones live within a 400 or 500 mile radius of that. So I'd be able to visit them more easily. I'd be able potentially to commute to Fort Lauderdale from a place I'd rather live. I would love to live in the St. Pete area of Florida again. And if I did, I could commute fairly easily to Fort Lauderdale. So, yeah, I love Las Vegas. I think it's great. My only problem with Las Vegas is not the heat. My only problem with Las Vegas is the tremendous amount of homelessness and mental illness that runs rampant in this city. And the infrastructure doesn't seem to be there to help those people. So it can be a kind of a sad place. There's so much glamour, there's so much light and music and all sorts of fantastic things. But if you look between the lights, you're going to see a lot of pain. And that hurts my heart. And that's the only thing I hate about Las Vegas. It's like that in San Francisco too. I'll tell you, the homelessness in San Francisco is just heartbreaking. All right, I know that this has already been too long. So, once again, a recap. Feel free to email me at that email address. It's steven.pereira@gmail.com. It's the name of my channel. Feel free to reach out to me through that email address instead of reaching out to me on Facebook Messenger, please. And if you have not subscribed, please do. I'd appreciate that. I love that. I love seeing that number rise. It's just warms my heart. And thank you for watching this video. I do appreciate it. And if you have any questions or comments, certainly write one below. And I'll talk to you later. Okay? Fly safe. And I'll talk to you later. I just told you that. Bye, guys. I'll talk to you soon.